Thing they're turned off. We're gonna have some fun on the Wednesday edition of Real Talk. The band is back together. Scotty Moe, Keith Smith, yours truly, Judah Wickower, single and ready to mingle. I've been dropping that line quite often. It's generated a potential date.
Yeah.
Where'd you?
It's such a yenta.
Yeah, I went to see my boy Happy.
Maybe he is happy.
He's got a lot to offer. No, I mean he wants that, right? Yeah, absolutely. Johnny, man, a few words, but
it'd be even better if he had a microphone in front of him.
I've tried for 6 years over there to encourage him to do that.
Thank you, Judah.
Johnny Ornelas, ¿Qué pasa, amigo? The owner of Guadalajara and El Mariachi. We love you, Johnny Ornelas. Give the show, guys, a like and a share anywhere you are watching. Stuart McClintock, how are you? The fantastic processor of payments, Stuart McClintock. We love when you watch the program. Love playing with your husband, Will. Playing squash. Got to make sure I'm clear there. James Watson, hello. Eric Thompson, hello. Bill McChesney, Kyle Irvin, Chad Wood, Dr. John, hello. Excited to see Dr. John at 12:30, the owner of Pro Renata, to talk about their expansion in Stanton. Doing a little development in Stanton and doing a brewery and a restaurant. Jamie Turner, hello. Peter Krabs, hello. Bob Yarborough, King of Redfields, hello. Michael Plecker, hello. Kevin Higgins, hello. Tim Carson, when are you going to come on the program, Tim? We love you, man. Eric Gunderson, the real estate investor, hello. Andrew Vaughn, hello. Woody Fincham, hello. Jesse Rutherford, hello. David from Skooma, Judah.
Trecarici.
There you go. Percy Montague. Percy, we love when you watch the show,
baby.
Hey,
Percy, Semper Fi, Marine.
Percy's good people. Patty Rowe, Logan Foster's finest. One of Logan Foster's finest watching the program. All right, we can rock and roll, J-Dubs, when you are ready.
Quiet on the set.
Some data over there.
I'm actually looking at it right now.
Good Wednesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. Happy Wednesday to you and yours. It's truly our pleasure to connect with you through the I Love Seville Network on a show on a Wednesday presented by Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris. Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris, a name you can trust. Judah Wickower is the director and producer of this fine and fair talk show. J-Dubs, good Wednesday morning to you. Why don't we go to the studio camera and let's welcome the gentlemen that need very little introduction, household names by now, Keith Smith and Scott Morris. Fellas, ¿Qué pasa?
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
We're doing fantastic. Keith, my friend?
I'm just looking at the board, and the estimated pending home sales is estimated to go up at 0.5%. This is nationwide, and it's up 0.9%. So in my math, that's about double than what they expected.
We are looking at some macro data at our studio television that's always tuned into CNBC right now. And they're talking housing right now on the ticker and interviewing a key member in the housing industry. Judah Wickower, I think we have some content we're ready to create with Scott Morris. Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris, a name you can trust. Scott Morris, the show is yours.
Good morning. Again, the weekly, we're growing it every week. The real estate spotlight listings from around the area with some of our partners. And wanted to take a minute to highlight some of them right now. We've got Brad Pitt's got a property at 3712 Run Place. We've got 15326 Rockfish. Japrecia Clark's got 14505 Kings Mill. We've got Sandy Morris has 1858 Deep Creek Run. Diana Banks has an awesome property a little north of Culpeper at 7141 Eggbornsville Road. And Janet Holden has a host of properties with Jefferson Home Builders, all at the $349 price point, new construction. Taylor Everett has got a property out at 13th here in Charlottesville at $550. We've got Megan Perry's got one. Cheyenne Cockrell, 1225 Middle River Road in Rixieville. And Carrie Brown, 250 Willis Ford Lane in Madison. Sarah Collier down in Rodanthe, 24256 Rodanthe Resort Road. Yona's got a property over at 2342 Highland Drive at 429. And if you've got anything that you'd be interested in having showcased on the show, please let us know and we'll get it out there and get it into the world.
I love it. Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage will cut that down into a sizzle reel and syndicate that across the I Love Seville network as the week progresses. Listings out there, Keith Smith, for people to buy.
Yeah, so this is a great new feature, and I'm loving it. And maybe as we kind of move through the week, we start picking some of the, picking one or two, and start taking a little bit of deep dive into the listing and get out there. The name of the game right now is listings. I just look at the week over week. Last week we were up around 60 something homes that came on the market. Now we're down to 44. So maybe we had a couple of weeks of a spurt here, and it seems to be leveling off a little bit. But I think we need to talk about the biggest news in Charlottesville right now. And what is the biggest news in Charlottesville right now?
Upzoning, rezoning,
No.
draft zoning.
We got
ordinance.
AC back in.
Oh yeah, installed on the in the studio this morning. Got here super early. Viewers and listeners, if you have any aspirations of purchasing AC unit of any capacity, prepare for a wait. Supply chain is a very real circumstance. I experienced it firsthand. 2-week delays on a promised time that was roughly 3 weeks out upon ordering and payment. But such is life in a post-COVID world where labor and supply chain and chip issues are there. Did you say there were chips in ACs?
I don't know. I said
There's chips in everything.
Okay, so is that
maybe that's part of what's driving it.
Yeah, there's chips in there. If you sit still long enough, somebody's going to stick a chip in you. So
Okay, so maybe that's what's caused it right there. But
the-
literally seeing a crane
don't get
dangle.
the
How much do
conspiracy.
those units weigh, Keith?
Oh, they don't weigh much at all.
Really?
Yeah. That's,
Why couldn't they just carry it up with their hands? I'm just half joking right there. I'm so ignorant when it comes to this stuff.
Did you just say indirect?
Okay, no, I'm so ignorant when it comes to this stuff. Yeah.
So apparently my hearing aids are not working as well as they should. But yeah, no, they're bulky, right? They're they're heavy.
It was pretty big.
Yeah, but when you're on a multi-story building, you always set it with the crane. That's what they do. And what'd you say? It was here for 15 minutes?
It was less than half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the interesting thing, viewers and listeners, if you want to get into being a commercial landlord in the city of Charlottesville, not only is there coordination of cranes, but there's coordination of permitting with the city, where you need to a crane. They needed 3 spaces. It looked like to me you only needed 2, but you needed some kind of buffer in case the hits the fan, and you have to coordinate that with the city, and that's no easy task, boys. But we got AC, which is good news.
Yeah, I mean, I walked in, it made my day, man.
You want to tell them what you really said?
No.
I sat down and I started looking at my phone and I was like, wait a second, something's different.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Jerry, for keeping me out of trouble.
I tried to.
On that one. But look, part of the reason is we talked about this in a previous show. Per the National Remodelers, National Home Builders Association, and NAR, the number 1 return on investment for this year is
ACs.
AC units.
Yeah.
Number 2 is garage doors, and what can you not get?
ACs and garage doors.
Garage doors.
I had a conversation with a builder and a developer about this. If anyone would like to replace their garage door now, you will get that installed somewhere around June of next year. You might get it in Q2.
I thought you were going to
next year.
say June, and then don't ask for the year.
6 months behind.
Yeah.
On certain garage doors installations. I want to put that in perspective. Garage door runs roughly, depending on the quality. Well, you know what? There's a pretty large price range. The one that we were talking about was in the $4,000 to $6,000 price range. And the interesting part about that is you're paying half of it up front now, and then the rest on execution.
And if you take a deep dive into the HVAC side of things, right, take a really deep dive into it, there's only 1 or 2 manufacturers that actually make the guts of it. You can have a label on it.
American Standard is what we went with.
And American Standard is one of the primary manufacturer of guts in that end of it. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you on my behalf, because I'm usually the one sitting here in the corner sweating because, these lights kick off a little bit of heat.
Oh, no doubt. They kick off a tremendous amount of heat. Let's get Scotty Moe in the
Yeah.
mix.
I didn't mind the heat. It was the coolness, the crispness is the first thing I noticed after I sat down. But talk about like the delays on things, and part of it's gone away. But I was ordering a hot tub or a spa, whatever you want to call them. This would have been into the pandemic-y, like supply chain stuff, and they were like, yes sir, it'll be 52 weeks. And I was like, dude, you could just tell me it'll be a year. Like that, like where does that, like that sales language come from? Like that's gonna sound better to me. I don't know.
52 weeks.
Yeah. They've gotten better. I think most of all those places have that sort of thing in stock now.
Are you going to be doing ice baths? Is that what that's for?
No, I could get into that.
I've gotten into it. It's been fantastic.
I've been, I don't know, I've been slacking on the whole, like, workout healthy. I mean, I'm healthy, but, thing.
I've had the deepest sleeps of my life with that. And then in the morning, sometimes when you feel the occasional stiffness when you wake up in the morning, it's gone. I don't have that.
Anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So if you know anybody from Scandinavia, that's been that way for hundreds and hundreds of years.
It truly is beneficial.
They go ahead and do the sauna. Usually drink lots of vodka.
Oh.
Then and then jump into I think Yoni used to work for a Finnish company, so there was
I like doing all those things.
This may be a little inappropriate, but
I forgot all about that. I was like,
they do business in the sauna. Al Natural. That's what mixed company. That's just the way it works in Finland. So it's a really interesting world. But look, we're here to talk about real estate a little bit. So the good news is, I guess the board over there is saying pendings are up. I'm looking at the 64 pendings in the last week within the CAR footprint. We started talking the other day a little bit about tracking DOMs, days on market. That's looking like in this footprint, and this is everything from Louisa, Nelson, Fulvana, Charlottesville, Albemarle. The 64 was a median days on market of 11. By the way, the median price point is $399. So but these are everything from attached and detached and all that kind of great stuff. So we're approaching 400 grand in pending and 11 days on market, and I think you're going to start seeing numbers go up a little bit more.
Scotty Moe, jump in here. What tickles your fancy in this market?
So I mean, I'm just excited to see kind of what I've been leaning into, which is I think the economy is softer than where the Fed has kind of had us on track for. I think we're going to see a harder than softer landing, and I think that we're starting to settle into some of those numbers. We saw a JOLTS report that was less appetizing than expected. We saw ADP numbers this morning that came in lower than expected. And I think we're in a position that we're getting there. Now the problem is the Fed has hammered in this higher for longer message that the bond market has started to buy into, and we needed this data to keep rates from going up anymore. And I'm not even talking about going down. This was a great pause. Now we are getting a little bit of improvement in pricing over the past couple of days, but a lot of that is just kind of bringing it down into a more palatable range from where we were.
Katie Pearl watching the program.
Hey,
KTP, good morning. Kevin Yancey's giving you a spa suggestion. Try Barefoot Spas, Scott. They have inventory on hand. A Richmond-based company, and he's now in Tyson's Corner watching the program. Viewers and listeners,
Nice.
If you have questions, put them in the feed. I will relay them live on air. Chief Conscious, good morning. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you for
Chief.
watching the program. Scott and Keith, I'm going to throw this to you. Do we expect inventory at all to uptick in this fourth quarter?
So the Mets have been doing pretty good.
We do not. We do not expect it to uptick.
We've been talking about this and talking about this and talking about this, and I just don't see inventory. Maybe my fine friend Scott to the right of me will feel different about it, but I just think all these major factors that we've been talking about, I just don't see it going up. And if Scott is right and we really start seeing a drop in the 30-year sometime in 2024, I think that's even going to get more tighter. But I mean, I'm just looking at it week over week, and we lost in 1 week 20 new units coming on.
How many units do we have currently?
We have 44 out right now. This is the car footprint.
44 active homes for sale.
Within the last 7 days, 44 new active homes came on the market, and I can tell you exactly what the number is a week ago. Why, Scott?
This question's come in the feed. Grayson, we appreciate you watching the program. He says, what's Scott's take on a Q4 rate hike?
No way.
Don't think so. Wow.
Not happening.
Are we going to bet something on that?
I will happily wager on that.
Really?
Really?
After the last little get-together and the last presser from Powell, when he said that inflation's still hotter than expected, and don't be unprepared or be prepared
because
for
he's
it?
gotten better with his messaging, because what he has said in the past led to the bond market not buying in that they had it in him. All along I've said he had to go to a more hawkish tone, and he has to stick to that script in order for it. So the Fed used to not telegraph every punch that they threw. It used to be this, hidden agenda, like, what color shoes does Bernanke have on today? And now it's shifted to this, they telegraph every punch. So if they're talking about taking their foot off of the gas 3 months from now, the bond market starts pricing that in. They had to get to a more hawkish tone in order to get the effect that they're trying to create with inflation. So if they start saying we're not going to hike, the bond market goes, hey, it's cut time, baby. And if he sticks to the script, they can get to December and go, we are going to continue to take this on each meeting on a data-dependent basis, but we continue to plan to have rates higher for longer. And if they can stick to that script, they're going to get more of what they want. But as soon as they say they're taking their foot off the gas, the cuts start getting priced in. They have to fight inflation from. Then they're back to this hydra of like, how do they keep all these different arms from attacking them? How do they most efficiently go after this?
I want to take a deep dive on a question real quick and related to that, because I read a couple of really interesting articles last night that was thrown around this theory. I would love to get your read on it. But 2 weeks ago, we were at 66.
66.
We are now today at 44.
66 units for sale 2 weeks ago, 44 now.
Came on in a week's time. 2 weeks ago, we had 55 that went pending. We're now up to 64, so let's call that 65 for the sake of a talk show. So we're a little bit higher in pendings right now, a little bit lower in inventory, and then the solds 2 weeks ago were 73. Now keep in mind, those went on the contract 30, 60 days ago from this, and now we're looking at 67. Price change is 44 right now. 2 weeks ago we're 54, so that's kind of telling me we're getting a little bit better about putting the right price out there, which is a good thing.
I don't know. I think the days on market is starting to tick up for some of these overpriced inventories, and people aren't reducing them. And I don't know. I think you're going to see a little bit of it was too high for too long, and now something's wrong with it. Disease creeping into some of these.
So Katie, Pearl, whoever's watching is the real estate. This is one of the hardest things to do when you're sitting across the table on a listing thing, is to make sure folks don't overprice their home, because that just hurts you all the way across the board. But let me go back to this.
DJ Morbely, hello. Josh Tracy, hello.
Let me go back to this article that I read. So it was a great thing. You worked your way right into it. So some of these conversations, these articles I'm reading, is somewhere in the back rooms, their real number isn't 2%. Their real number is 3% as far as inflation. And
I don't think that's the case, but I think it's got a 2 handle. I think that if they can say it's 2x, all of a sudden everybody feels better about themselves.
So explain 2x to me.
2.9.
Okay, got it.
2.8, you know,
got it,
2.5.
When I hear 2x, it's like two times
no,
something.
No.
So it has a 2 in it somehow.
Exactly. When they say, inflation's not where we want to be, but we've reached the 2 blah 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 blah. Whatever. Yeah. Once I think 2 handle. Once that's the language,
And is that kind of the inner workings of your opinion that they're going to leave it alone? That there's because we're really at 2 something instead of 3, because it really depends on the product, right? Of gas, I just filled up in Richmond the other day at $3.75.
Well, I mean,
gas is going up.
yeah, but the gas potentially. They're talking about Energy's having a new high cycle to where we're talking about crude getting back into the 90x range.
I would not be surprised if gas starts upticking above 4 in the very near future.
And what does that do to the market?
Well, that's drives more inflation. That's your last mile. What it takes to get your whatever it takes to get them Amazon boxes to the house gets a little more expensive. Somebody's going to pay for it.
I think it's also going to potentially soften the real estate market in the outer counties as gas gets more expensive and as debt service with loans associated with home purchasing is more expensive.
So
everyone's getting pinched here.
All right. So I think the bigger combination. I think the inventory isn't going to. People are still going to be able to travel to these outskirt communities. I don't think that's going to go away. We've seen there's not enough market. There's not enough inventory to where that's going to become a problem yet. But what is going to be a problem is the combination of higher energy cost, higher loan cost, higher insurance cost. Are going to be the main things. We've seen a huge pullback in insurance companies in the state of Virginia. It's now considered a loss leader state. There's a bunch of companies who just don't want to be here. What's the one named after that stupid bird, the dodo or something like that? They pulled out. I mean, they're a big writer. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. There's a number of flood insurance type scenarios that have the way that these companies are reviewing their policies are becoming much more stringent, and that cost is getting
who turned us on to that? Jeremy Rowe turned us on to Goose Insurance when he was sitting here. That's what he was talking about as the underlying thing that nobody's talking about. It's how much the insurances are going to cost, and then we had this whole discussion about taxes. But if anybody wants to look it up, it's called commutesolutions.com. So there's a commute cost calculator. It's a pretty simple thing because as a Marine, I can figure out how to use it. You plug in your round trip miles, how many days you work, your sedan, how many miles per gallon it gets, how much gas is going to cost you, the year, and roughly what your car payment is per month. And you calculate it, and it'll tell you how much per month that it's costing you for commuting. So the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is as the rubber band grows, right, and people are going to Buckingham and they're adding another, say, 15 minutes or whatever it is, 10 or 15 miles in their traveling, there's a direct cost to that. And one of these conversations that we have, and we use this a lot, I use this a lot when we're helping buyers, is, if this is going to cost you an extra $500 or $600 a month, to travel that far out there, maybe and you can afford it, maybe that could be added to your mortgage payment, right?
And I think that's why there's going to be momentum and tailwinds yet again behind the rental market. Beth Mark, I'm going to get to your question about rents here in a matter of moments. Woody Fincham watching the program. You got a bunch of agents watching right now, guys. I think the agents are tuning into the show here to gain knowledge, see where the market's going, figure out deal flow. Woody makes this comment: I would love to see the voodoo analytics to support what the National Association of Realtors claims returns value. And he's talking about that in regards to the HVAC units and the garage doors.
Yeah, so Woody, that's actually put together by the Remodelers Association in conjunction with it. It's a simple Google search. You can go ahead and find it. But, look, I can tell you from on the street, right? If I've got a buyer, particularly with interest rates being what they are, prices being what they are, my buyers, we want homes that either have brand new HVAC system or close to it, only a couple of years on it. You know, it's important to have all these things fixed up. I know you're smiling.
Well, that's so there's a piece of that, and I love all of our home inspectors, but where there's some there's language that and you know what, I'm trying to be better at this. No more but, more and.
And is Yvonne talking to you too?
And some of the language that they do use that I could I do less with is this is at the end of its serviceable life. It's like, okay, now that we've planted doubt, is it working? Because that's what we're looking for.
That has always been a struggle with this whole home inspection thing, and particularly the way that the amendments are written. It's very ambiguous, but this is classic. The state, what I call unfunded mandates. The state says you got to do X, but don't tell you how to do X, and then everybody in the field is stuck with working on it. I jumped on you. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, that's sure, but the state can't mandate how someone phrase, what kind of language they use and describe. Sure. I mean, the purpose is that you've hired this person to go out and find things that you should know about the property, and knowing that this is at the end of its serviceable life is maybe useful knowledge. How you go about presenting that to the client is probably.
We will leave names out of it today, but we actually.
I'm not naming anybody.
No. I had the same exact situation happen to me yesterday. New construction finish, right? Home inspector came in and did it. We've just got the CO approved, right? The CO is done. We're doing a home inspection, pre-move-in home inspection. So the dryer was up above the garage. So the metal pipe dry vent came down through the floor and the pipe was exposed. Now there was a fire retardant caulking and all this stuff, and the inspector threw a red flag, and the buyer just freaked out. And I said, well, time out. Do we have a CO? Yes. Well, the building inspector is the one that determines if it's fire, and if it isn't, then it's the county that's online. So to your point, that this does happen.
And then you've got problems with the county. There are. Charlottesville has recently gone through a transition with some of the personnel that they've had in those positions, and then you've got, Mr. New Guy, I need to go in and tell these remodelers that they're not doing this correctly. It's like, okay, thank you. Here's actually what the code says. So while your opinion is valued, why don't you abide by the actual rules instead of, come in here with your Tommy Tough Guy act? It's a whole, both sides have their problems.
So back to this commute cost. I just plugged in some numbers. So if I added 10 miles one way, so it's 20
And that's at current gas prices.
Excuse me.
That's
I'm
current gas
going to use $4.
Okay.
Just assuming that's where we're going. $20, 20 miles round trip added. Figures you work 22 days a month. You drive a small sedan. That sedan gets 25 miles to the gallon. Again, you can change all this stuff. $4 a gallon. The model year of the car is 2018, and it costs you $500 a month. And if you hit the calculate, the cost of that commute is $602.52. So you're paying over $600 a year.
That's
a
what
month,
I think the outer counties are going to soften.
A month, $7,230 a year to add an extra 10 miles one way to your trip. So if you kind of play with this a little bit and do the math.
That's a substantial amount of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And what are we at now, 375?
Yeah.
So let's just see what 375 does.
No. That four's a good number here.
Yeah.
Gas ain't going to get less. It's not going to get more affordable in the near future.
Yeah.
Beth
Add
and Mark,
$600 to your month.
Right. You're talking about, in some cases, 20% of a mortgage payment here, 25% of a mortgage payment. And that's why I think,
So I'm only adding 10 more, assuming you're driving an extra 10 miles and you're already driving 15.
If anyone watches this program, they know that I'm positive and I'm not a bear. I'm very much a bull. But as gas prices rise, I worry about softening values as you get further and further away from the epicenter of employment.
I don't think there's enough inventory to make that argument.
I appreciate that. I think you got a lot of headwinds. If rates rise, at the same time gas prices rise, at the same time credit card debt is at an all-time high, at the same time wages are flat, and at the same time as jobs in the outer counties are not available, I mean, you got some headwinds there.
So picking out a county, what do we think that we want to say Buckingham, or you want to?
I mean, Buckingham, clearly the
Nelson?
values have softened in Buckingham. Nelson County, the values have softened year over year. Both those counties justify what I'm saying. I would say pick Augusta County.
Okay.
Pick Louisa County. I mean, Louisa to Charlottesville is what, 30 minutes one way? Depending on how
I
fast
think Stanton is a great example. But again, I go back to the Buckingham softening, as there was a bunch of new construction that sold, closed, and is not being replaced right now. I think the value change that you're seeing there is more to do with the actual number of properties that are on and off market right now versus 12 months ago.
Jamie Turner has got a comment on the feed. He says,
I think if you had 20 units that you could just drop active into Buckingham right now, they'd be getting the money they want for them if they were priced appropriately.
You think so?
Yeah.
Scott or Keith, you got a take on that?
But what you ended with is correct. If it was priced appropriately, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
and I think that would be comparable to what you saw 12 months ago. But if they're going over that number,
the builders are telling, you guys are connected with the builders as well. A lot of the builders are saying to us that they can't come to market with the price points they want to come because of labor, cost of goods, fuel, debt service, rates, all these headwinds. So they're having to come in at these price points that are not necessarily what they want. They also know that in today's market, they're going to have to give some stuff up to get some of these deals to go through. Builders are buying down points in a lot of circumstances to help clients get financing for the product they're building.
Yeah, so the where matters, right?
Yeah.
So I just did a quick Stanton or Staunton, depending on what part of the world you're from.
Dan Pettit, good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
Jamie
Right.
Turner says work from home and remote work is undoubtedly softening.
Without a doubt.
Where he's at.
If you would read some articles that people they're like have to go back. But single family detached new construction in Staunton or Stanton, year to date, 2023, the median sales price was $250. The same year to date last year was $233. So it's gone up. I'll bet you in Buckingham you won't see the same thing. I think when you're on the other side of the mountain,
I think you're going to see Buckingham has already softened. Nelson County has already softened. I would not be surprised if you see Louisa soften.
I'm going to look at that in a minute. Louise is really hard for us to do.
and it's also going to carry Lake Anna, where they're still selling, $1 million.
So what I'm looking at
properties.
what I'm looking at right now is probably not going to, because we kind of don't go all the way into.
So
Barbersville, I wouldn't be surprised if you see that
when we're
soften.
talking about buying down points in this new construction, are we talking about like national headline news? Because if that's the case, we're talking about companies like KB Homes.
No, I'm talking about local builders,
Okay,
like the ones that we're repping.
all right.
Are not just offering basement finishes and upgrades like that. They're literally buying down points for some of their clients. Like this came up on a Tuesday conference call, which I was like, okay, you do what you got to do to move the product. Viewers and listeners, your thoughts here. Let's get this is a good question for Beth Mark, and she's waiting patiently here. She says, please ask Keith and Scott about the Charlottesville rental market. Trends for this fall for people that cannot buy. Here's a link to Zillow listings. Townhomes seem to range in the $2,200 to $2,800 a month range. Beth, and I'm going to get out of the way of the experts here. Keith mentioned about 3 weeks ago on Real Talk that the average rent for a single family detached in Charlottesville City and Albemarle County is now $2,500 a month. The median rent.
Yeah, per Paragon.
Yeah, per Paragon. I mentioned that yesterday.
Which has a limited depth of rentals. To go back to Buckingham, 2023 single-family detached, no new construction year to date. The median sales price was $246, and 22 it was $255. So it's gone down. Stanton has gone up. Buckingham has gone down. So it's the outer edge of the rubber band, particularly as gas gets to $4. Is going to be difficult. Not to be a Debbie Downer about it. I'm just being a realistic.
Facts.
Yeah, facts.
That's facts right there. Yeah. Dan Pettit, Real Estate 3's finest. We'll get to your comment in a matter of moments. This is a very good comment from Jennifer, and I appreciate your optimism here. She says EVs can help alleviate this crisis. When it comes down to it, the market share of electric vehicles is very slim. I mean, you're talking less than 10% market share for electric vehicles. And while I see the future being electric vehicles, it's not the present.
What's the average cost of an EV?
The Chevy, is it the Bolt?
Yeah, so
It's pretty nominal compared to new car.
Yeah, you could get a Bolt or something like that
For $30K.
40,000,
Okay.
which would
Yeah.
be the same as new thing. But then so the people know, because I've done a lot of research on this.
And there's never been a better time to buy a Tesla than right now. Musk is trying to gain market share by beating competitors on price, and he's cutting. I think he's had 3 price cuts on brand new Teslas.
So there isn't a zero cost of fueling up an electric car. I learned this the other day, because when we were in San Diego, all the Uber drivers are driving Teslas. And I was like, hey, how you doing? Me being me, talking to them and finding out how they're doing and what they're. And he says, look, it costs about $20 a charge, because in order to do the rapid charge, they have to go someplace to rapid charge it, right? So it cost them about, he said, to fill up, all of them was consistent, about $20 to fill up their.
I will jump
rapid
into
charge.
this. Our neighbor just got a Tesla and a Tesla charging station in their garage. The Uber drivers need the rapid charge because they're doing significantly more driving than the average Joe and average Sally.
Every one of these Uber drivers were living in rental units, right? And the rental units wouldn't allow them to do that. So that's what was happening out, at least in San Diego.
Our neighbor's making the trip from Keswick to the hospital and back on one charge, no problem.
Sure.
And can also run errands as well. The Uber driver's just doing more mileage every day than the average Joe and average Sally.
Sure.
Beth, we'll get back to your comment here. Trends on rents. I'll jump in here.
I'm working on it right now.
Yeah, Scott, I'm curious of your take. I hate to say this for those that are maybe potentially priced out of the housing game. When inventory is so slim, and Keith just highlighted how slim the inventory is in the car footprint, that drives momentum and tailwinds behind escalating rents. I truly expect rents to continue to escalate at pretty aggressive clips here in the car footprint because there's no affordable inventory to purchase.
Yeah, so I want to be careful with this. So what I'm looking at right now is the city of Charlottesville, single-family detached, what's available to rent in Paragon. Now, keep in mind, that's like a small sliver of it. Paragon and we more focus on
For sale.
Side of it. But the median rent price for a single-family detached home is $2,595. So call
$2,600.
Just call it $2,600.
That's an astronomical amount of money. $2,600.
And how much house can I buy for $2,600 a month, sir?
$325.
Yeah, there you go.
Where are you going to find a $325,000 house? In Charlottesville and Albemarle County.
Well, we're back to the whole. Charlottesville and Albemarle. That's kind of non-existent.
So if you can't find in Charlottesville and Albemarle County, then you got to add $700 a month with gas prices at $4.
If you go out that way.
So
absolutely.
that at that point you're over $3,000 a month.
Yeah, but you're
You
also
got $3,400 a month.
I get it, but you're also building equity, right? You're building.
You got to pay your bills to
appreciation.
build equity.
I agree with that 100%.
It's just a lot of headwinds right now. Dan Pettit's got an interesting question. Johnny Ornelas says this: I've been waiting on Trane for exterior filters for 3 months for commercial units.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 months, Jesus. I want to emphasize to the viewers and listeners, if you're looking to replace an HVAC unit, this is not going to be a next day or a next week type deal for you. I just need to highlight that for you.
So, Johnny, I'm going to make a plug for Chris Fairchild in National Filter Service.
Love you, Chris Fairchild.
And if you can tag him, but that's what Chris's national company does. They go around to restaurants and commercial and replace air filters. That's literally his business model around the country. So I'd reach out to Chris, and if you're interested, Johnny, I'll make a text intro on it and see if he can help you with that.
Go ahead, Scott.
On the EV side of things, about that fixing the cost, you got to assume that most people are getting moved towards an 84-month note on those cars.
Oh, good Lord.
That's going to carry probably an interest rate of between 8 and 10% right now. So at $30K, they're going $500 a month for 7 years into this auto loan on top of any other existing debt to fix their commute cost in their gas vehicle. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think it's there yet. And he's 100% right. And replace the battery on one of these EVs. Have you guys seen the cost of those?
Yeah, like $20,000.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize this. They're like, oh, electric vehicle, it's going to fix everything for me. Your battery goes wrong. You have no vehicle.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to not get on a soapbox on
Find
this.
someone who services EVs.
But do yourself a favor. Google and kind of weed through the noise. Google exactly how these batteries are made.
Oh, that's a whole nother.
You will be shocked.
Google what happens when
Lithium.
the car is done and you send the car and battery to pasture. You think you're actually helping the environment? You may be having more of a negative impact than a gas-powered car.
Yeah, when you look at these lithium farms and everything, and how they're set up and that sort of thing, it's a whole other thing. You look at some of the stocks. American Lithium is probably a good one, and there's some others you could kind of like pour some research into if it's something that you're interested in, because they certainly are going to experience some growth. But at the same time, like, I don't know, there's a certain demographic of people that you probably never get to flip. We'll see.
So it's interesting. The attached rental in Charlottesville, this is like townhomes.
This is for you, Beth.
2,200. There's not a big of a delta between.
Do you agree with the take that rental prices are only going to pop and escalate more with inventory being so pinched and throttled?
So I think, and I'm going to get myself into a little trouble here.
Okay.
I think you're going to see rentals actually soften a little bit, particularly in the city of Charlottesville.
Ooh, agree to disagree on that one.
It all depends on how many of these multi-family, multi-story apartment buildings actually get built. Technically there's 1,500 coming from UVA. There's a bunch of project on Cherry Avenue. So there's a bunch of projects in the pipeline that may bring more product to the table, that may make it a little bit more stable on it. But look, the reality of it is, we're talking ownership here, right? Let's assume you go ahead and get a home and it costs you $3,000 a month. I'm just picking around numbers on it, and it's a mortgage. You're stable like that for 30 years. Rental, you don't know what's going to your point, what's going to happen next year. Your rates might go up, and you're just not helping yourself.
Dan Pettit, Woody Fincham, you should hear this question. This is from Dan Pettit. What are your thoughts on eliminating appraisers going to homes?
Oh, good Lord.
Dan Pettit's been in the game, 30 years, 40 years? He's a realtor.
So it feels a lot like 2007.
Now, set the stage. What's happening? Set the stage.
Yeah. So what's happening here is that there's and Woody's really the expert on this, and so are you, because you get to see this on a regular basis. But in a simplistic terms, the appraisers don't have to physically do an inspection, right? That's in simple terms on what's happening. So basically, do desktop analysis or appraisals, which is, by the way, is what got me into trouble, which got us into trouble helping Yvonne.
She's watching right now. She wants to know what flavor drink of, is it Celsius you are drinking?
This is
literally put that in the feed.
Peach Vibe.
There's
Peach
nothing
Vibe.
vibey about that thing.
I asked her when she's coming back on the show.
Yeah.
Take that test. You're going to pass it.
So the
C is for degree.
Yes, sir.
C is for degree.
That's right.
So I think, in certain markets, it's going to be more viable than others. But that's the same. It's not just what got anyone into trouble 12 years ago, 13 years ago. It's more along the lines of what got Zillow into trouble with their iBuying program. And
that was just dumb.
Well, no, it is everything is not for everyone everywhere, and if in these neighborhoods, maybe more like what you see in some areas in Arizona, Las Vegas, Texas, certain parts of Florida, where you've got entire neighborhoods of the exact same house,
Sure.
like built, and then you can come to a more accurate assessment
Sure.
than what you have in an environment more like this.
I would agree with that.
And with that, it becomes each individual property, especially in a historical type area, is going to be largely different than the one next door to it. And while you think we can be interesting, take a look, drive into DC, and instead of going to like if you cross 66 over into Georgetown, right where it comes out on M Street, make a left and go up into some of those neighborhoods, and you'll have an entire like historic area where it's these Victorian houses, and then some ambassador from wherever ripped a house down and built a modern mansion in the exact same neighborhood. You'll never be able to create in this area a blueprint for automated appraisal numbers working as accurately as you will in certain other areas of the country where it'll probably be just fine.
Good take. That's a
No
good
truer
take.
statement has ever been
That was
said.
damn good. Sizzle reel that.
So ask the real estate agents that are watching the show, do you do a CMA without getting inside the home? And the answer is no, right? You can
How
go-
weird is the client?
Pardon?
What?
You making in front of me my hearing aids?
No,
You making
I'm not.
in front-
No.
Are you making in front of the old guy on set?
I said, how weird is the client?
Yvonne, come help me here, please. These guys are making. in front of me.
Since she's been on the show, I've literally asked Keith, when's your daughter coming back on?
Yeah, well,
Katie Pearl's got a comment.
go, Katie. Katie's a rock star.
We have 2 detached homes. This is KTP, Queen of Whitehall right there. KTP, we love when you watch the show. We have 2 detached homes in Green that consistently rent for $2,200 a month, 2,800 square foot home, and $2,800 a month for a 3,800 square foot home.
There
I
you
can
go.
add to that. I got a very entry level condo that's 1,200 square feet that is essentially renting for $2,000 a month. I am legitimately seeing neighbors in our neighborhood. This is what the econ professor said. There's 2 come on the market in the last 30 days that are renting between $5,000 and $6,000 a month. 2 5,000 square foot homes are renting between $5,000 and $6,000 a month right now. And these folks have gone on to new properties.
Yeah,
And they're just renting their house for $5,000 and $6,000 a month.
but when is the right time to buy a house?
Well, they did buy.
Yeah,
They just didn't sell theirs to buy the next one. That's what happened.
yep.
So they're more than 2xing their overhead with their house. That's pretty substantial.
I'm not disagreeing with you, fine sir.
I wonder
That's interesting.
how long. Not everybody is going to be a landlord in those situations, and there is some growth coming into the area, and so there will be renters, but the renters in those neighborhoods I don't think are, in the Glenmore neighborhood at least, I don't think that is something where you're going to see rental inventory take off. I think you'll have a here and there for somebody who held on to it, but eventually the people who are renting in those places want to go buy somewhere else.
That's true. I think what's happened, that's 100% true. One of them I know for a fact, the tenant signed a 2-year lease because they couldn't find anything to buy. And they were desperate for somewhere to live.
Yeah, sure.
So that's to your point. They do want somewhere to live.
Yeah,
They
sure.
still got 24 months of rent. 24 months of rent at, $5,500 a month. You're talking $132,000.
Sure.
Yep.
$132,000 for doing jack.
So in Greene County, I'm just again looking at Paragon. There's only 4 available for rent, single-family detached, but it's very interesting. It's $24.75 is the median. Like these are single-family detached homes.
So that's right in
on the market.
KTP's wheelhouse right there.
Yeah, there you go.
She's a pro. She knows what
Well,
she's doing.
what I'm getting at is Greene County is roughly 2,600. Charlottesville's roughly 2,500 to 2,600. There's not a big price difference between the two. At least what I'm looking at on Paragon, which again is not an in-depth. We need to get like Suzanne Reel in here to really, and maybe that's a future show to get Suzanne in to really tell what's going on with the rental market.
Beth is in the housing game herself. She says, I manage this one for rent, and she shared the link, which is $2,190 a month, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 107 Linda Court, Unit B. And she's sending another direct message. Beth, you're making the program better. We appreciate you watching. Let me see if I can get to that message right now. She says, in the Meadows neighborhood, 1 mile from JPJ. Jamie Turner says he's getting $1,750 for a rental in Orange County, and that's well below market right now.
So to that point,
Yeah.
and to this point, that supports strong, single-family, detached values for sale if that's what they're getting for rentals.
100%.
And that's why it's part of the equation of why I say these areas, if people are willing to drive for them and get premium rents, people are going to be willing to drive and
'Cause they
pay
have
premium prices because there's
think-
not enough inventory to support a lower value.
I think it's that. I think it's these people are paying premium rents because they can't find anything to buy, and they're desperate for a place to live.
Yes.
And what Lloyd's. Dude, there was an article in the Daily Progress. Lloyd Snook interacted. Mayor Snook's right down the hall for us. We have nothing but respect for him. He was interacting on the I Love Seaville network. I made the comment that I think it's 6,000 to 8,000 new people coming to the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County in the next 5 years. He responded to my comment on my page saying, I don't think that's going to happen. Then I sent him the data from Virginia about the biotech school alone creating 3,000.
Yeah, sure.
And then he was quoted in the Daily Progress in an article yesterday, literally saying what I said in the comment section, almost verbatim.
Did you get credit for it?
I did not. I did not. It was literally almost verbatim what my comment was, his quote in the newspaper.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's.
If you get 6,000 to 8,000 new people coming here in the next 5 years, what the hell is going to happen?
And what does those 6 to 8, what's their,
Where are they going to live?
more importantly, what's their base salary going to be?
Well over six figures. I mean, a HUD, it's 123,300, the household income according to HUD. It's going to be way more than that.
And what is these households going to demand?
Premium rents.
No services. And then who's going to service these folks and where are they going to live? And it becomes,
That's called the amenity effect. I
So
learned that
that's
from Deep
$500 million in payroll out of the university.
Let's use a conservative number, 6,000, and let's times it by
All right,
175K.
Okay, that's going to be $1 billion.
This is the number that shows up on my calculator.
I told
it doesn't
you.
even
It's
do
a
this.
billion
It's $1 billion.
yes.
Of additional, I mean, my calculator doesn't go that high on my iPhone. It's an additional $1 billion. What is that going to do to this market? People aren't talking about this, but this network. No one else is talking about this. The mayor didn't even know this 3 weeks ago. Think about that.
Yeah, and we love the mayor to death.
He's my friend.
Yeah.
I see him every day.
And he's busy being a defense attorney and working on a bunch of other things and so forth and so on. So the good news is you get an opportunity to educate and help educate folks to go ahead and do this. But,
an additional $1 billion in salary in the next 5 years?
So why are we doing what we do? Why do we have these conversations that we've been having for nearly 550 shows? Why is that? Because housing, right, is if not at least according to the good Dr. Lisa Sturtevant, the second in gross domestic product for the state of Virginia after the government. So housing, and back to my comment about these 6,000 people that are coming, are going to have a place to think. It's called indirect, direct, and induced impact on the local economy. They're going to have all these impacts on the economy. So it's a multiplier. It's not just 6,000. It's 6,000 multiplied by whatever people that are way smarter than me can figure out that impacts on the local market. And it's everything from having to buy couches to HVAC folks,
garage doors, coffee.
My question is, how much juice is UVA getting in order to justify? I think that 175 number is probably too high.
You think?
Yeah.
When the HUD is 123.3, and remember, a lot of these are going to be two-income families.
Average. So I think that. Yeah, I don't know. I talked to a lot of people who moved to the area.
To clarify, the 123,300 is a household number. So that could be one earner, two income, it could be three incomes. Yeah. It's a number,
and that's the average.
That's the number HUD uses for its loan products, right? That's why this is so important, and that may be a great thing for you to dive into why that number matters. Because when you're talking about 60 to 8, some of these,
I think 175 is light. For those 6,000 people.
Well, you got to assume. No, you got to have.
175 ain't what it used to be.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that you'll see. So for 1 in every 20, you'll have or I take it back. Let's say a quarter. So 5 of every 20 are plus 200K earners, and the other 15 are sub 100. I think I think that's going to give you an average closer to like 125, 130.
We'll see. We'll see. We got a lot of comment. This is from Dan. What's the average rent in Lake Monticello right now?
I'll have to dig that up. I'm looking at something. According to ZipRecruiter, salary UVA in Virginia, August 2023 is 900, and the average salary of all UVA employees is $99,350 per year.
This comment's come in.
But that's ZipRecruiter. I don't know how accurate that is.
This comment's come in from Thomas. He says, I work at a local family office. The jobs created with the data science school will be well over 300.
So back to Dan's question, Ally Property Management, Suzanne Reel and I were talking yesterday. She's about ready to put a rather cute but small 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch home. I don't think it has a garage or whatever, for right around $2,000 a month.
An even better question, and I'm sure it gets asked all the time, like, how does UVA get the tax benefits that they do? They should be providing the juice to the city and not the average homeowner.
Payment in lieu of taxes pilot program is what Scott's referencing there. I 1,000% agree with that. UVA takes property, commercial property, off the tax rolls and brings.
Well, it doesn't, guys.
Well, I mean, foundation versus the nonprofit.
Well, the foundation pays taxes.
Yeah, the other one doesn't.
And if you take a close look at most of their property, they move it over to the foundation.
How long though?
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And there's a transition time where it sits in a tax-free purgatory.
Yeah. Look, they're at the table. They're providing land for some.
But to UVA's point, they say, look at what we're doing for the economy. Why should we be doing more? If we weren't here, there would be no Charlottesville.
Then quit waving the, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, it's a sticky one to go, considering they're the
10-ton elephant in the room.
No, I don't want to get in their crosshairs.
I could care less about being in the crosshairs. The bottom line is don't tell everybody that you want a bigger, better, happier, more affordable world, and then be part of the gentrification of your neighborhoods.
I think, okay, that's a fair comment. I think what they're doing is more of a perception management than actual tangible production, and I will stop at that because I do care about being.
I'm at the table with those conversations. I would disagree with you. They generally want to do something. I just don't think what I constantly hear, this is in our world, and sometimes they should just lean on the experts and move on. But that's just my personal experience.
Let's get to a man whose opinion I trust considerably. Woody Fincham, he says, and we have Albemarle County saying that they won't expand the development area because it isn't fully utilized as is. That is the government creating constraints on the market. When the market is artificially constrained, it causes inflated costs. I'll push back a little bit on that, Woody. I'll push back. Albemarle County is saying they're not going to expand the development area because the people that vote the folks into office don't want the development area expanded.
So
Albemarle County can't expand the development area if taxpayers don't want the development area expanded. Same with Fluvanna County. Fluvanna County residents do not want density. That's why they're voting folks into office that don't want density.
So just happened to be playing while you were talking, looking at the HUD thing and because there's a link you can look at different states and different stuff. So Greenville, South Carolina, we talk about that all the time, right, as a comparable to Charlottesville, but just doesn't have the university. Do you want to know what the median area income for the Greenville, Maudlin, Esley, South Carolina, HUD metro area? Do you want to take a guess on what that is?
I would say it's less than 123.3.
$89,000.
Yeah, that's substantially less.
So there's 89,000 and we're at 123, and I think we're at 123 because of the 10-ton elephant in the room. So I just thought I'd share that with everybody.
So how do you characterize that?
Look, we're the second highest cost of living in the state of Virginia for a reason. It's UVA. It's these $100 and some odd $1,000 jobs, or according to ZipRecruiter, if it's true or not, the average salary at UVA is $100,000, right? It's 6 figures.
Brian Hall, I love the shows that you guys do. Can you please help us understand how 6,000 to 7,000 additional people with that kind of salaries will live here?
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the point we're making here.
Yeah. So what it's going to do, it's going to put more if this, and it's over time, right? We're not going to have 6,000 people tomorrow, right?
No, I think it's going to be in the next 5 years, though.
So that's a time. That's 5 years, but it's going to consistently put pressure on existing inventory. Existing inventory is not going to grow. I'm on the record for it. I think you're going to see 5 to 10 years of where we are now before you start getting inventory, start going in whatever the right direction is on it. But what they're going to do is they're going to put more pressure on, Charlottesville, so forth and so on, Albemarle County, and it's going to start pushing the people at the housing affordability level out. So maybe to your point, maybe Buckingham comes back.
I'm telling you, but that is my point, is that even if you look at where the bulk of the at least immediate apartment growth is, it's north on 29. It's out into Fluvanna County. It's places that normally we would not have.
That's a one and done. You're not going to see any more.
I 1,000% agree with that, and it shouldn't have existed to begin with, but that's not the point. You're going to see you're going to see surrounding counties grow because they are the affordable bedroom communities that support the area that we are in. That was what it was 20 years ago, and that is what it's going to continue to be 20 years from now. As Zion's Crossroads and Short Pump grow closer and closer to each other, you're going to see more development in Louisa. It's going to be difficult to apply that to Madison, I think. Just because of what's actually available, you'll definitely see some growth over time, but there's just not, I don't think the infrastructure, there's not internet in a lot of those areas. That's something that will have to continue to advance to see growth in some of those areas. Like you get into some super beautiful property area just south of me, just north of Charlottesville, that, you can't have, there's no high-speed internet. So it prevents people from wanting to develop there.
So
that's a good take right there, Judah.
Just out of curiosity, somebody out there, please pick another town, maybe Neil might know off the top of his head, that is similar to Charlottesville. In other words, a university town, can be a little smaller or larger. I'm just curious.
Lynchburg.
Excuse me?
Lynchburg.
Oh, I know that the area medium income of Lynchburg is way lower than where we are now. I'm trying to figure out what other area, like, maybe Athens, Georgia, or what other area that has a major university in it that's really their only, really at the end of the day, our industry in this area is higher education, medical, right? We don't really have a lot of quote unquote industry in our area, retirees, that kind of thing, but we don't have a huge industry. So I'm just curious what other town is similar to us that I could just cross-reference.
Matt Hines says Chapel Hill is a good comparison.
There you go, Chapel Hill.
Good stuff, Matt Hines. Is that your first comment on the feed?
Matt Hines, thank you for your help.
Matt Hines, tell us more about you. I think that is the first time you've ever commented on the feed. I try to remember names. Chapel Hill is a fantastic comparison. I would not have thought about that. I'm going to give you some props first. You're looking up Matt Hines there?
I'm looking up Chapel Hill.
Or, excuse me, Chapel Hill, yeah. This is from Ashley Johnson. Buckingham County does not want density or housing. That just came in on the feed. There's not going to be any additional housing or density in Buckingham County.
Yeah, I'm not in the weeds in Buckingham, but that would not be too surprising.
That's
$116,000.
There's a comparable. So we're talking about $7K off Charlottesville?
$7K off, but Chapel Hill.
Logan Wells Claylow, hello.
Yeah, so Durham Chapel Hill, isn't that part of the triangle?
Oh, that's the triangle.
Right, right? Yeah. And so there's a lot of high tech and other sources of revenue, which is all feeds off of the university. But that's a good catch. So you're roughly 116,200. So we're at 123. Anything else? Any other? Chapel Hill? What is Clemson in? What town is Clemson in?
Clemson is in Death Valley, which is their lovable nickname for it. Clemson is a city in Pickens and Anderson counties in the state of South Carolina. Clemson is home to Clemson. I would say it's Clemson. Clemson is in Clemson.
Let's see if Clemson's in Clemson.
Clemson is in Clemson. Clemson is Clemson.
Clemson's in.
The household income in Clemson is not nearly comparable to that.
I don't know. We're going to find out here in a minute.
I'd be willing to wager. And Scott,
I need to know what county that is in because they don't have it as a city.
I'll give you that county.
Yeah.
Dan Pettit wants to know what rates are doing this week. Scott?
So we've seen a downward trend based on some softening and some economic data, which I talked about in the beginning of the show. We had a JOLTS report on Tuesday. That was better than expected. This morning's ADP numbers were, I say better. They were not great for job openings, and then today we saw an ADP report that was, again, softer than expected numbers, which is the slowing in the jobs market that I believe, now that I think that we are at the end of the hiking cycle, that we're starting to see. I also think that that's going to accelerate through the winter, and we're going to see I think we'll see end of first quarter cuts from the Fed. So that's like March, April would be my expectation. And we'll start seeing that priced in the bond market by January.
So we're at 90 grand for Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson is more, I don't want to say blue collar, but not as high level as the Charlottesville area. Well, one of the viewers has sent us a link to what appears to be at least 24 houses for rent over $4,000 in this area.
You can probably get on apartments.com and
that's where the link is from.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to filter.
So one apartments.com, unfortunately, is a lot like Zillow. You never really know if it's accurate or not, and all that great stuff. I'm just, like I said, my search is purely limited to Paragon, and it's surely woefully lacking on the apartment side of the house. But
Katie Pearl suggests Gainesville, Florida. There's the University of Florida and Shands Medical System.
So speaking of that, we ought to keep Florida in our thoughts and prayers. They're getting hammered right now.
Absolutely. And she says,
if you know anything about people from Florida, they are getting hammered. It is hurricane party season, baby.
I love Florida. I love that. Alacoa County, Florida, if you need the county. Gainesville, Florida might be the place to start. KTP, good stuff today.
Thank you.
You made the program better. I would say Gainesville, Florida would be flirting with the Charlottesville 123.3. That one's got a lot going in its favor right there. This is a question for Scott.
What was the county again?
I'll spell it for you. It's ALA.
Got it. I got it.
Okay. This one's from Scott from the same commenter.
90,000.
Oh, wow. Way lower. 90,000 for that one, KTP. Thomas says this. How about refi rates right now? And Dan Pettit, you have a great day as well.
Refi rates? So depending on, if it's rate and term, it's going to be very similar to what regular, purchase rates are at the moment. If it's cash out, you're going to be looking either. So I will say this. What we're seeing with hopefully this week, when I talked earlier about rates becoming more palatable, is just the cost to lock at certain programs or what you're looking to do. What the government has placed as far as LLPAs or loan level price adjustments on certain products has made discount points just to get into a rate a real thing. Depending on what you're trying to do and credit situation as well. So you're going to be a little bit higher for a cash out than you are for conventional rate and term. And we're starting to see everything improve a little bit. So if we're at, say, 7.25, you're probably 7.75 on the cash out.
Nicely said. Nicely said. Keith Smith, I see you have something to say. Liz Nottingham, welcome to the program.
So I was looking at HUD numbers and quite only heard a little bit what you were saying. So back on your rate protection, are you still holding that you thinking rates are going to come down in the near future? Did I hear that correctly? Or
yeah, I'm going to stand on that. I think that
this year or it's moved into next year a little bit.
Well, I don't think that we've got another raise in the cards this year.
You agree with that or disagree with that, Keith? Woody Fincham also says Madison is similar to Fluvanna. They do not want large-scale development. And he says all the folks fussing about wanting more affordable don't vote.
Yeah.
The folks fussing about affordability are about 82 people in this community. I hate to say that.
So locally, yes, to answer that comment from Woody, nationally, which as everybody knows, I'm part of some national cohorts, this is a national thing. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants additional housing, which is just causing. I had a conversation with my father and mother about this, and I got to dig it up to prove the stat. So this is just me shooting off the top of my head. But I think the last time we had such a lack of housing shortage or crisis was after World War II. I do not think, I've been researching, and anybody out there who's way smarter than me can find the data for me. I'd love to see it, but I've been trying to research on, and I've actually reached out to NAR to help me with that because they got all these statistic, gurus over there. When was the last time that we had such an inventory shortage versus the buyer pool? And I'll bet you any amount of money, I think that is probably, we haven't seen this since the end of World War II. I may be wrong.
What about the rate hike in Q4? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yeah, I was trying not to answer that question, and you knew that. So, look, I think it's a flip of a coin, right? I think somewhere to Scott's comment, I think somewhere in the back rooms with the Feds, I think they've got a new number in their head that isn't 2. I don't think it's 3, but I think it's somewhere between 2 and 3 as far as inflation. And if we start approaching that, they'll probably flatline it. But if you listen to the words and what they're telegraphing, they want the housing market to hurt. And I don't think we got to the point where they want where they feel it's hurting. I really don't think we're there, and I think we might see a bump in the short term. I agree with you. I think we're going to see a drop. I just don't think it's this year. I think it's probably in the beginning of next year.
Carly Wagner jumping in. Carly, I passed along those digits. Carly says this. To add to Woody's comment, the people currently living and voting in those counties do not generally want more of the outsiders coming to their counties. It's the outsiders that want more affordability and supply in those counties, but they aren't generally the people voting and living there currently. 1,000%, Carly. Very well said. Eric Thompson says, I agree, World War II or even the Great Depression, we haven't seen a housing shortage like this.
I think the stats will prove out that it hasn't been this way since World War II. And it's interesting, we talked about zoning. Do you know when zoning was adopted in most of our area around here? Mid-70s, early to mid-70s.
Yeah, you know why it was adopted?
Yeah.
To prevent white flight.
Yeah.
You know what white flight is?
Yeah, well, it's that, and also to keep certain individual out of certain neighborhoods. If you go ahead, when Yvonne comes back on, I'll have her bring her copy of her deed in Richmond. It actually says in her deed, it talks about that. It's pretty scary.
Take Charlottesville, Virginia. They adopted the zoning here in the 70s because they saw their affluent population sprinting to the suburbs.
Yeah.
And they changed the zoning code, prioritizing single-family detached. 53% of the city is zoned R1.
Well, it got adopted by the state in the late 60s, and then it slowly, as it rolled on, and as this is a Dillon rule state, as the state adopted it, it needed to work its way through the system.
Which it did.
I think Fluvanna County didn't get it till 72.
I mean, if you think about it, the mentality of not wanting additional housing, if you and I'm just spitballing here, if you own a house and you don't get additional housing, what is that going to do to your ownership? It's going to drive value to what you own.
Yeah, I think it's simpler than that. I think people get someplace and don't want anybody else to come. It's interesting, the rezoning question or the density increase question that came before Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors a week ago, which, as everybody who watches the show knows,
you disagree.
I am a housing advocate, but that was a very silly path that they took.
Matt Hines adds this comment, which we can close with. Fantastic show, gentlemen.
Oh, look at that.
Makes me want to grab that new listing on 9th Street, single-family house below $300,000. Those types of listings will be obsolete in Charlottesville, even the ones that need rehab. Matt Hines, watch more of our shows, dude. I think those are your first 2 comments here. They were fantastic. We very much appreciate your thoughts. Any closing thoughts over there, Keith Smith?
Yeah, no, thank you for everybody, particularly Katie Pearl for chiming in, and all the wonderful viewers and listeners. You know, you always make this show way better. You know, I know you make me way better on the end of it. So, you know, we were kind of doing some bearish stuff here on rents and stuff like this. But look, 44 houses came on the market, 65 went under contract in the last week, so 65 people are buying homes. So if you're in the market to sell, reach out to us. If you're in the market to buy, reach out to Scott and us. I mean, there are transactions happening. The wonderful real estate agents that are watching, you know, go ahead and reach out to them. They're rock stars. You know, let us help you, you know, move on. I'm about ready actually, I was going to say, I'm not going to be here next Wednesday because I'm sitting next to Dr. Lawrence Yoon and doing a presentation with him in DC, and I'm going to actually have a cocktail with him and find out what he really thinks.
Tell him to come on the show.
I like it.
Yeah, well, he's coming down on the 7th, but I'm still going to be up there doing presentations, so he's going to be at CAR on the 7th.
Carly says, Jerry thinks I'm a kook for this, but I really think, as Keith said, they want housing to hurt. They want less and less private ownership of property. Read about progressive property theory, all about property rights being more focused on the greater good rather than the property owner. I am not making this up.
Well, I appreciate that. I think the second half of it gives them a little bit too much credit that they actually think. And I think they just want the housing industry to hurt because it's going to get them down to their 2% inflation, because housing is such a, if not...
key driver of the economy.
Yeah, key driver, and that's what they want. And all you got to do is go back to 2008, and everybody knows that housing was the key driver of the economy.
Scotty Moe, show is yours.
Katie, Carly, everybody watching, thank you so much. If there's anything anybody needs, don't hesitate to give me a call. I think the Fed is going to Fed. I think their biggest concern right now probably has to do with what happens with energy prices and how that's going to affect short-term inflation. But I think along with student loans coming back online, a higher energy cost, even though it may adversely affect inflation, will reduce spending, I think, which is going to really, I think we're just getting into where the medicine that they have shot into the economy with these higher rates is just starting to take effect, which is, again, a reflection of it took so long for inflation to get here. And then now we are in a transitory environment, if your timeline's long enough. And if you look at where their rate increases are starting to hit, and then the corporate debt that's going to need to be refinanced in the next 24 months, the soft landing is not what you're seeing. What you're seeing is the beginning of these things taking effect.
Thoughts and prayers out to the folks in Florida. They're getting hammered. I'm watching it here as we're talking, and I don't want to be that guy, but I've been through too many hurricanes through Florida and what it did to the housing industry and the building industry. Watch what the impacts of that's going to be down the road. You think it's hard to get a piece of plywood or a piece of equipment now. Wait until all of that ends up in Florida for the rebuilding process. But first and foremost, keep them in your thoughts and prayers, because they sure as heck need it. It's pretty nasty down there.
Guys, we talk about the Pro Renata team is coming up at 12:30. Including Chip Clark, who is the owner of the Coke building and the Coke bottling plant in Stanton. Dr. John, the owner of Pro Renata, to talk about their development plans and expansion in Stanton at 12:30. Judah Wickower, Keith Smith, Scott Morris. I'm Jerry Miller. This is Real Talk with Keith Smith, presented by Ross Mortgage. Ross Mortgage, you can count on. Show archived at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Click the Partners tab and find the supply chain of the people that can help you get through to closing and beyond, folks and businesses vetted by Keith and his team himself. All right, that's the program. Thank you kindly for joining us. So long, everybody.
Thanks, Scott.
Those mice were very well done. J-Ups, who was that? I was trying to walk in.